Now, if we look at the potential for fraud, there are three potential for fraud. The number one is people being dishonesty. This is kind of subjective, but it's sometimes directly connected to somebody's personality. Just some people are just dishonest, and that's it. Sometimes it's a cultural thing from another country. For example, some countries are very heavily using bribes, and that's just part of the culture. That's just the way you do business there. It doesn't mean it's right. It's still fraud, but the whole country does it. It's very attached to that culture. Number two is actually the motivation. So this is basically the size of the reward. If the reward is very small, right? If you want to steal something, but the only thing you can steal is very small, forget it. You're not going to do it. But if you have the opportunity to steal something huge, maybe you're suddenly much more motivated. This is also interlinked with the actual sanction. So if you know that you only go to jail for a very small amount of time for a potential, if you steal something, suddenly you're more motivated. If the sanction is extremely strict, then you won't do it, right? You may think of, for example, in Middle Eastern countries, you have things like the death sentence still active, where you would pay a very, very heavy price. You would pay with your life for committing fraud. So suddenly the motivation is reduced. And number three, I kind of already gave it up there, but it's the opportunity. In order to commit fraud, you have to find a loophole first. If you find a loophole, then suddenly you have an opportunity to commit fraud, or a crack, or a hole in the Swiss cheese, right? Maybe go undetected. If you know if you know the internal controls of the company very, very well, you've been working there for a long time, then you know that it will go undetected because you know how to go around procedures and controls. So this is nobody will notice my fraud. Okay. We can also think of it as external or internal factors of motivation here. External factors could simply be increase in competition or a herd effect. So you know all your competitors are actually misrepresenting their sales, so you know they're doing fraud, so I need to follow, because otherwise I can't keep up. So this is called the herd mentality. Like sheep, you follow what others are doing. If others are committing fraud, you just jump in. And internal factors is usually anything that's new. So for example, new staff in the company, very high risk of fraud, right? They're new, you don't know them yet. New system, new procedures. And now you're starting to get it that, yes, actually, that makes sense. When there's a new software, suddenly the risk of fraud increases dramatically. New product. Right, and we could add more here, but you get the idea. Anything that's new, suddenly the risk of fraud increases. For the organization, this is bad news. It has very bad implications. You could have an immediate financial implication, loss. Just stealing money, suddenly you lost that money. But it could be delayed. It could only hurt you in a couple years from now, because you don't know it right now. So it's a longer term effects. You can have reputation damage.